I saved the one I loved, and she tried to destroy my life. I never thought my life could turn upside down so quickly. Everything seemed fine, or at least acceptable, until that morning, which has remained etched in my mind like a nightmare I can't forget. I didn't yet know that saving Helena from that despair would be the beginning of hell for me. I just wanted to help. I wanted her to know she wasn't alone. But looking back, I understand that the whole thing spiraled out of control, and I was run over by it. I remember exactly the day everything started to fall apart. I was there, by her side, holding her hand as she cried, trying to stop her from really hurting herself. That feeling of helplessness, mixed with fear and despair, is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. I didn't want that to happen, but deep down, I knew I needed to be there, even though we weren't sure what would happen next. What I didn't expect was her reaction afterward. Helena, who had previously been a mix of affection and fragility, suddenly turned into a storm against me. She couldn't accept what I'd done, as if I'd stolen from her a choice no one had the right to take away. That's when things started to spiral out of control, and social media, which had seemed like a place of support, became a battleground. She used all her strength, the entire network she created, to destroy my reputation. I, the one trying to save her life, became the monster in the story she told the world. It was strange, because in our private lives, I knew what had happened, but to outsiders, I was to blame for everything. And that ate away at me, with no one believing me. The online harassment got worse and worse. Comments, messages, false accusations. I felt the weight of each word like a punch in the gut. It was humiliating, and the worst part was that we couldn't escape it. I had no way to hide, and the people I loved began to suffer as well. My parents especially, who were by my side, ended up being dragged into all this chaos. The worst night of my life was when a live broadcast was broadcast at school. Helena, with the help of her friends, planned the whole thing to expose me, to humiliate me in front of everyone. I was completely vulnerable, awkward, and powerless to react. I stood there, watching it all unfold. All I could think about was how this could ruin any chance I had of moving forward. I tried to find evidence, seek help. That's when Professor Carlos entered the story. A light amidst the chaos. He helped me obtain the school footage, which showed the truth, that I wasn't the monster they painted me to be. But even so, it seemed no one wanted to listen. The police seemed tired of hearing my side, as if my word was worth less than that of the outraged public. I felt very alone at that time, even with the help of Beatrice, a friend of Helena's who had the courage to stand by me. It was difficult to maintain hope. Everything around me seemed to conspire against me. I saw people's faces change, their suspicious looks, as if I were guilty before I could even try to defend myself. It was a pain that hurt so much. And the worst part was not being able to tell anyone, because speaking out would only make me a liar. The emotional toll was making me weaker and weaker. I even thought I would never get out of that situation, that the shadow that had fallen over me would haunt me forever. The fear of losing everything, my family, my job, my dignity, consumed me every day. But by some force I can't explain, I decided not to give in. I couldn't let anger and despair take over. I needed to fight, not only for my life, but for the truth that insisted on hiding behind that wall of lies. That's when I decided I wouldn't hide anymore, that I would face all of this head on, even if it hurt so much. It wasn't easy. Every aggressive message, every dirty look, every doubt about my words was a punch to my chest. But little by little, with the support of my family and Beatrice, I found the strength to carry on. I held on to small victories, like being able to prove something, or a friend who still believed in me. They were crumbs, but they were all I had at that moment. The worst part was looking at Helena and feeling that mixture of love and pain. She, the one I saved, the one I cared about, was using all this to destroy me. Understanding what was happening to her was also important to me. She was a hurt, lost person, trying to find herself in a way that hurt everyone. But I needed to protect myself. I needed to protect my family. One thing that helped me a lot was writing, letting out everything I felt without fear of judgment. As painful as reliving those moments was, it was a way to release the burden from my chest. It was my escape, my safety valve in a sea of chaos. I discovered that speaking the truth, even when no one wants to hear it, is a step toward freedom. I know I'm not 100% healed, and I may never be. The scar that time left is deep, and I still feel the weight of it today. But what I want to convey here is that even in the worst moment, when it seems like the whole world is against you, it's possible to bounce back. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it is possible. Today, when I look back, I see how much I've grown from all of this. I've learned to value myself, to fight for my truth, and to not let other people's opinions define me. I know I still have a lot to overcome, but I also know I'm strong enough to do it. If I could survive this, you can survive whatever you're going through too. In the midst of that storm, I realized that family was my safe haven. My parents, despite their fear and sadness, never gave up on me. They suffered with me, cried with me, but were always by my side. This made all the difference because when we feel alone, the fall seems even deeper. Having someone who believes in us is what keeps hope alive. I also remember how essential Beatrice was during that time. She could have closed her eyes to everything, followed Helena's lead, but she chose empathy. Her choice gave me a breath of fresh air when I thought I had no strength left. It was proof that even in darkness we can find light, and it reminded me that I wasn't as alone as I thought. Every time I tried to prove my innocence, it was like digging a bottomless pit. It seemed like every piece of evidence, no matter how clear, was ignored because Helena's narrative was already constructed, and no one wanted to deconstruct it. I understood that more than proving the truth, I would have to build a new story for myself based on my strength. This realization was the beginning of my transformation. I stopped trying to convince those who wouldn't listen and started focusing on those who truly mattered. My parents, my true friends, and most importantly, myself. I stopped seeking external approval and began to look at myself with more compassion, understanding that my pain was legitimate and my suffering real. The internet can be a cruel place, but it's also where I found support groups, people who'd been through similar things, who understood me without needing explanations. It was there, in that virtual space, that I began to rebuild my self-esteem. Knowing I wasn't alone in this struggle helped the weight on my chest lift a little. I won't lie, there were days when I wanted to give up, when fear and shame nearly swallowed me. But deep down, there was an insistent voice that said, "You deserve to be happy. You deserve peace." That voice, however weak, was what got me out of bed when everything seemed hopeless. I learned that strength isn't the absence of fear, but the courage to move forward despite it. The process of cleaning up my image was long and painful. It had to be done step by step, with a lot of patience and persistence. Each small victory was celebrated as if it were a goal in the championship of my life. But there were also moments of frustration, of wanting to throw everything away because the world seemed to be against me. It was a hard lesson in resilience. I learned that not everyone will believe us, and that this doesn't mean we're any less worthy. What matters is the truth we carry in our hearts, and the honesty with which we face situations. My truth was what kept me going, even when the world seemed to want to knock me down. Helena, even after everything, remains an important figure in this story. Not because I see her as an enemy, but because she represents the complexity of human relationships. She's also hurt, and she may never fully understand what she did. I've learned that forgiving isn't forgetting, but freeing ourselves from the anger that corrodes us. This forgiveness I gave, more than to her, was to myself, so I could move forward without carrying the weight of resentment that only hurt me. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but it was a decisive step in my emotional recovery. Today, when I look back on my life, I see that what happened was a turning point. I'm no longer the same person I was before that day. I'm someone who's learned to appreciate every small moment of peace, every gesture of kindness, every victory, no matter how small. All of this has made me stronger, more aware of my worth. I know I still have challenges ahead, and that some scars will take time to fade, but I'm no longer afraid of what lies ahead. I know I can face anything because I've already survived the worst. This certainty gives me a peace I never imagined I'd feel. I want to say to anyone going through something similar, don't give up. As impossible as it may seem, overcoming it is possible. The pain will be real, the struggle will be tough, but the reward of finding yourself again is greater than any suffering. If you can, seek help. Don't be ashamed to show your vulnerability, because it's a form of strength. Finding someone who listens and believes in you makes all the difference. And, as cliché as it may sound, we really don't have to go through this alone. Finally, I'm grateful to be alive and to be able to tell my story. I know I still have a long way to go, but I've learned that no matter how many times we fall, what matters is getting up and moving on. My life today is a testament to this. Despite everything, it is possible to win.